I'm just sieving some sand here, ready for the grouting. This sand has been dried off in the greenhouse next door. As I said before, I use a flour sieve, which gets rid of all the grit, so I end up with a nice fine mix there, which is ideal. And we're going to grout the building, which I made yesterday. Overnight it's set, and it's now pretty much solid. And grouting it isn't a big deal. I'll just show you how we do that now. What we need for this is sand, a mixing pot, damp cloth, and some PVA. This is waterproof PVA again. So we just put some sand in there. For this small model we don't need too much. Just put that much in there. We need some PVA. Let's try that for the moment. Something to mix it up with. And just a drop of water. Mix it up nice and again it's like custard. Can be just slightly looser than that. You might want to wear some rubber gloves when doing this, so it can be a bit abrasive on your fingers. I don't bother myself. But, so we just sprinkle that on. I'm just going to put in a bit more sand, work it in, more sand. Another way of doing this is to paint the model first, before you add any roofing or windows or doors or anything like that. You just got the walling, is to paint it all with masonry paint and then grout it. But what I've found recently is that these blocks tend to end up with a nice tone of their own without painting, which I quite like. And also when it rains the stonework becomes darker, which is quite authentic, as opposed to models which are painted which obviously stay the same colour all the time. Right, so that's how it's looking at the moment. We've got some white bits there, which I'm going to rub away. That's what happens when the glue becomes damp, it goes white. So this is a good test really to see what's going to happen when it rains. So any little white flecks you don't like the look of, dig them away. So I'm going to carry on doing the the rest of it, and you'll come back and join me once I've finished that. I've grouted all the outside surfaces now. I won't really know what it's going to look like until all that dries, but I'm going to carry on the inside with, as I said, we'll do some pebble dash effect. For this we use the same idea. Need some more glue. I'm going to use some of the grit that I've sieved out of the sand to give a rougher texture. It needs to be thicker because it needs to form a layer rather than just go into all the joins. So I've got some grit here. Any really big bits I'm going to pick off by hand afterwards. Otherwise they'll be a bit out of scale. This can really only be done with the surface you're working on flat. Otherwise it'll obviously just all dribble down to the bottom. So I'm going to have to do the 3 inner sides separately. Wait until each one is set basically before I can turn it over and do the other ones. We just spread it around. See what it looks like. Might be easier with the fingers, I think. Right, let's cover all the inside and the back into those corners. And again, this helps seal it all up. Now I'm going to see if I can get rid of some of these larger bits. Should leave a finer finish. Right, I'm going to leave that as it is, flat. That's going to take about, I'm going to give it a good half hour I think, just to firm up, so I can switch it onto the other end and do the other 2 sides. So I'll come back to you again shortly. Right, what I've done now is I've finished off the inside. Also I've sprinkled on some dry sand just to give it a finer texture, just so it isn't too knobbly looking. And I've also cast in car body filler 2 tiling sections from this mould. The mould has some interlocking lugs at the ends which I've taken off because I don't need them. So the back one is now fixed in place with resin. And the front one I've yet to add on. What I've done, because it's unsupported at the front, and this is quite a thin casting, I've welded on a couple of pieces of waste track rail. So it's going to support it properly at the front there. So I'm going to just glue that on again with resin and come back to you again. And it's starting to come together. So that's the front part of the roof now fixed. The inside is still wet, so I have to be careful not to put my fingers around the corners there and drag it all out again. Now for the ridge tiles, this might come as a surprise to you. I don't know how easily you are at being surprised, but I'm going to use something which is very similar to plasticine. It's called New Plast, which is available at some art dealers. It's a sculptural material, and you probably think, well, you can't use plasticine out the doors, you get the first hot day and it will just melt. but not the way I do it. And I've already used it outside on buildings which have been out for some time now. I've cut a piece which fits the top. This is going to be a sort of rounded top ridge tile. And handily, Nuplast comes in sort of rods which are joined together, so it's almost takes away the job of trying to get an even sausage shape. So what we do is we just glue that onto the top with PVA. And if you coat plasticine or Nuplast with PVA, it gives it a hard shell once it's set. It's rather like an eggshell. You know, if you place eggs in a certain way and walk across them, you don't break them. And PVA around plasticine or Nuplast does exactly the same thing. And it might be soft inside on a hot day, but the PVA shell will stop it moving. So they'll just cool down again in the evening, and you'll be left with exactly the same shape that you started out with. And you can put as many coats on it as you want. Depends how nervous you are about this method. The thicker the coat, the better it gets. And once I've done this, or you could do it the other way around, you could show different sections of the ridge tiles before you put the glue on. It doesn't matter really which way you do. And there we go. So I'm going to leave that now. That's the end of the project as far as this demo goes. And as I say, once that's all finished, I'll add some paintwork, a bit of detail here and there, maybe a seat I'll put inside, and I'll put a picture of it on the website, and that will be in a few days' time, I expect. So there we go, that was demo number 5.